Hello. Welcome to the last episode of Australian Citizenship class on YouTube. Episode 40, Practice Test 4 from Part 4 of Australian Citizenship, Our Common Bond. Before viewing the practice test questions, it's a good idea to review Part 4 of the study booklet, Australian Values. It covers topics such as commitment to the rule of law, parliamentary democracy, our freedoms, our equalities, mutual respect and tolerance for others, and our community. And remember, Our Common Bond is available in 40 community languages. Check to see if your language is on the list. You can print a copy of Our Common Bond in English as well as your own language for study. The videos on this channel have subtitles in lots of different languages as well. You'll find a video that explains every part of the text in Our Common Bond. Okay, let's get started on the test questions for Part 4. Question 1. Whilst driving his friend to the market, Wynne notices that his friend isn't wearing a seatbelt. Wynne stops the car and asks his friend to put on his seatbelt. This is an example of A. Freedom of speech, B. Commitment to the rule of law, C. Equality of opportunity and a fair go. Insisting that all passengers in your car are wearing seatbelts means that you are following Australian road rules. This is an example of B. Commitment to the rule of law. Question 2. Krishna joins the trade union at work. Remember, a trade union is an organized group of workers who join together to protect their rights, improve working conditions, and negotiate better pay, benefits, and safety standards with employers. This is an example of A. Freedom of speech, B. Freedom of association, C. Freedom of religion. In Australia, people are free to join or leave any group voluntarily, as long as it is within the law. Krishna joining his local trade union is an example of B. Freedom of association. Question 3. Ting and Cecilia got married 3 years ago. This year they adopted a baby girl. Under Australian law, 2 people can marry each other, including marriage between 2 men or 2 women. Same-sex couples in Australia have legal equality with heterosexual couples, including the right to marry, adopt children, and access joint parenting rights. This is an example of A. Loyalty to Australia, B. Equality of all people under the law, C. Parliamentary democracy. B. Equality of all people under the law. Question 4. Shulan and Hayun attend a community English class once a week. It helps them to practice their English and learn more about their local community. This is an example of A. Equality of all people under the law, B. English as the national language, C. Freedom of speech. People living in Australia should make an effort to learn English. It is essential for economic participation and social cohesion. Shulan and Hayun show that they are actively participating in their Australian community and making the effort to learn English. So the correct answer is B, English as the national language. Question 5. Trang and Min receive nasty, racist memes on their family business's social media page. They contact the e-Safety Commissioner for advice and to report the abuse. This is an example of A. Helping to keep our society safe. B. Compassion for those in need. C. Loyalty to Australia. Online abuse, also known as cyber abuse, is not accepted in Australia. This includes creating or sharing racially offensive material on the internet or other publications and making racially abusive comments in a public place. eSafety helps Australians prevent and deal with harm caused by serious online abuse or illegal and restricted online content. Trang and Min's engagement with the eSafety Commissioner is an example of A. Helping to keep our society safe. Question 6. Raoul is on a crowded bus. His friend rings him on his phone. After checking that the issue isn't urgent, Raoul tells his friend that he'll call him back once he's off the bus, as he doesn't want to disturb the other passengers. This is an example of A. Commitment to the rule of law. B. Freedom of speech. C. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. Although Raoul wouldn't be breaking any laws by having a personal phone conversation on the bus, activating your phone's speaker mode and having loud personal conversations in crowded public places is generally frowned upon in Australia. Raoul's awareness of others' personal space and respect towards other passengers is an example of C. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. Question 7. Yulia and Nell are new Australian citizens. As soon as they receive their citizenship by conferral, they make sure to enroll to vote with the Australian Electoral Commission, or AEC. This is an example of A. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. B. English as the national language. C. Parliamentary democracy. Voting is compulsory in Australia. This ensures that Australian citizens are involved in how the country is governed. This is an example of C. Parliamentary democracy. Question 8. Amandeep and Harleen disagree with a proposal to build a sewage treatment plant near their home. They attend a community meeting to voice their concerns and also write a letter to their state MP that outlines why they don't want the sewage treatment plant in their neighborhood. This is an example of A. Freedom of speech. B. Loyalty to Australia. C. Equality of all people under the law. People in Australia should be able to express their ideas freely, so long as it is within the law. Australians are allowed to peacefully protest against the actions of the government because tolerance of peaceful public protest is an essential part of democracy. So the correct answer is A. Freedom of speech. Question 9. Ahmad, Marzia, and family often go to the beach at sunset to pray. People in Australia are free to openly follow any religion they choose. This is an example of A. Freedom of speech. B. Freedom of association. C. Freedom of religion. People in Australia are free to follow any religion they choose. The government treats all citizens equally, whatever their religion or beliefs. This is an example of C. Freedom of religion. Question 10. Amari and Dave work in a warehouse for the Australian Defence Force. They are careful not to discuss anything about their work in public places such as cafes or bars. They know that all information related to the Defence Force is strictly confidential and not to be shared outside of that environment. This is an example of A. Freedom of speech. B. Compassion for those in need. C. loyalty to Australia. Australian society is based on our shared obligations not to undermine Australia's interests and security. By keeping all information related to their work in the Defence Force confidential, Amari and Dave are showing C. Loyalty to Australia. Question 11. Moosa's neighbor has a dog that barks a lot at night. Whilst others have suggested that someone do something to shut the dog up, Moosa writes a letter to the neighbor explaining that the constant noise is very disturbing to neighbors. This is an example of A. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. B. Freedom of association. C. Equality of opportunity and a fair go. In Australia, individuals must respect the freedom and dignity of others and their opinions and choices. It is against the law to be violent toward another person. Violence of any kind, including verbal and physical abuse, is illegal. Moosa communicated respectfully to his neighbor about the dog, who in turn brought the dog inside for the night so that it no longer disturbed the neighbors. This is an example of A. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. Question 12. Sue and Sophia volunteer at their local op shop every Tuesday. Op shops, or opportunity shops, in Australia are charitable retail stores that sell donated pre-loved clothing, furniture, and household items to raise funds for social programs, community support, and medical research. They act as a social enterprise, funding services like food banks, emergency housing, and hospice care, while reducing landfill by promoting reusing items. This is an example of A. Freedom of association. B. Compassion for those in need. C. Loyalty to Australia. Volunteering is a great opportunity to share knowledge, learn new skills, and increase your integration into and sense of belonging to the Australian community. Volunteering to help in an op shop is an example of B. Compassion for those in need. Question 13. Although Anne Doe came to Australia as a refugee, not knowing anyone or speaking any English, he is now a famous author, actor, comedian, and painter. Australians believe that everyone, regardless of their background, is given an equal opportunity to achieve success in life. What someone achieves in life should be as a result of their hard work and talents. Anne Doe worked hard to learn English and develop his talents, and is now famous and successful. This is an example of A. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. B. Helping to keep our society safe. C. Equality of opportunity and a fair go. Anne Doe's rise to fame is an example of C. Equality of opportunity and a fair go. Question 14. Antonio loves his job as a nurse. Even though his family says it is more of a woman's job, he studied diligently, works hard, and is very good at his job. Men and women have equal rights in Australia and should be provided equality of opportunity to pursue their goals and interests. Both men and women have equal access to education and employment. There are no jobs just for men or just for women. This is an example of A. Equality of all people under the law. B. Helping to keep our society safe. C. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. A. Equality of all people under the law. Question 15. Keza is worried about the 3-year-old child next door. He seems to be left unattended regularly and is often wandering by himself by the busy road. Keza hears a man and a woman screaming and swearing, then the child crying for a very long time. She decides to call the police so that they can check that the child is okay. This is an example of A. Helping to keep our society safe. B. Freedom of association. C. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. A. Helping to keep our society safe. If a person in Australia sees or has knowledge of a child being abused, they should report this to the police to investigate. The police will investigate, and the family may be offered family support services, such as help with parenting skills, financial stress, mental health issues, substance abuse, or domestic violence. And an assessment may be made by Child Protective Services to ensure that the child is in a safe living environment. Question 16. Kavinda speaks English well, is an Australian citizen, has formal qualifications and 10 years of experience as an engineer in Sri Lanka. When applying for a job in Australia, he knows that when an organization needs to fill a job, the law supports that they select the person with the best skills and experience for the job. This is an example of A. Equality of opportunity and a fair go. B. Freedom of speech. C. Loyalty to Australia. A. Equality of opportunity and a fair go. Question 17. Larnie notices the flashing lights of a police car coming up behind her whilst driving. She pulls over to the left to let the police car pass safely. She then signals, makes sure the way is clear, and merges back onto the road. This is an example of A. Commitment to the rule of law. B. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. C. Both answers A and B are correct. In Australia, the lawful actions of the police should be supported. You should obey the lawful request from the police because all Australians commit to following the law. You must give way to police, fire, or ambulance vehicles displaying red or blue flashing lights or sounding a siren. You must move out of their path, pull to the side, and stop if necessary to let them pass safely. Obeying Australian road rules is an example of commitment to the rule of law, whilst demonstrating respect and cooperation toward police is a sign of mutual respect and tolerance for others. So the correct answer is C. Both answers A and B are correct. Anong has separated from her husband. She sees a family lawyer to help her apply for a divorce. Divorce is acceptable in Australia. Either a husband or a wife may apply for divorce to the courts, even if the other spouse wishes to continue the marriage. This is an example of A. Freedom of speech. B. Equality of all people under the law. C. Loyalty to Australia. Anong's situation is an example of B. Equality of all people under the law. Question 19. Sarah is in a hurry to post a package at her local post office. She enters, then notices 8 people waiting in a queue. She goes to the back of the queue and waits until everyone ahead of her has been served before paying for her package. This is an example of A. Commitment to the rule of law. B. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. C. Freedom of association. Queue culture in Australia is a deeply ingrained social norm based on fairness, patience, and equality, where waiting in an orderly, single-file queue is expected for services, public transport, and cafes. Jumping or pushing in is considered extremely rude and often met with disapproval from others. Sarah understands that queuing ensures that everyone is served in their turn, regardless of status. She is showing B. Mutual respect and tolerance for others. Question 20. Regional Victoria has been severely impacted by bushfires. Amid the crisis, Punjabi migrants are volunteering in relief and rescue efforts. delivering meals, and opening their spaces as shelters. Lending support in a time of need is an example of A. Freedom of religion, B. Parliamentary democracy, C. Compassion for those in need, mateship. C. Compassion for those in need, or mateship. Mateship is helping and receiving help from others, especially in difficult times. How did you go with the practice test questions? Remember that you can go back and re-watch any of the videos on this channel to help you review and prepare for the citizenship test. I hope you found this video series helpful in preparing for the Australian citizenship test. Good luck!